Mayor, you need to wear your mask, please.
Yes, okay. Are we good to go?
Yes, sir.
How to do this. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Scott County Board meeting for September 7th, 2021. We'll have some comments in a moment after we stand and join me in the pledge. The pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And the clerk will note the roll. I don't think we put the roll call, did we?
So,
It's been about a
yes,
year since we've done this. However, let's make a few comments about the attendance today. We have Commissioner Beer had a lot with COVID-19 here in the last week. He's on your Zoom screen. He looks like he's in the witness protection program, but that's really him. And so he is remotely from home. But I'm going to ask Leslie for the county attorney to make some comments about his participation.
so thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on state statute, it allows the chairman of the board, the chief legal advisor, the chief executive administrator to determine that on the basis of health and welfare for the rest of the board and for the participant, that he can participate remotely as a doctor's note under state law, and that he can participate remotely. So we will be taking roll call votes on everything. It won't just be unanimous vote, but roll call vote, and that does allow him to participate as the board member.
Thank you, Leslie. But this is really hard. We decided we'd be back to masks here. So if we sound like we're muffled, that's because we're wearing these masks. And if you have trouble seeing the board, it's because our glasses are fogged up. But this is what we decided we're going to do today. Commissioner Ulrich is also under the weather, not with COVID, but he is under the weather and will not be joining us today. So we have 3 members on site, and Commissioner Beer, if he chooses to participate, will be doing so. And he just gave me the thumbs up there. I saw a silhouette of a thumb that he will be participating. So we will be doing the roll call votes on everything. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing staff and members not indicating there's any changes, the chair will just declare the agenda as it's been published. Point number 3 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. On July 15th, 2021, we had the Three Rivers joint meeting with the Three Rivers Park Boards, and we have the minutes in our packet.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
Mr. Wolf
Second.
and Commissioner Wexler-Durkee, thank you. Further discussion to that? Hearing and seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Roll call.
Excuse me. Commissioner Wickman-Brecky.
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
Aye.
Commissioner Beer.
Aye.
Thank you. Then also in our minutes, we have the August 17th Scott County Board minutes. They were in your packet as well. I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Discussion to that point? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Commissioner Wickman-Brecky.
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
Aye.
Commissioner Beer.
Aye.
Thank you, members. On point number 4 on the agenda is recognition of interested citizens. This comment is limited to 5 minutes on items that will not be taken up on the agenda. So if there's anyone that would like to address any concern or item that's not on the agenda, now is the time to speak. Has there been anybody online, JJ, that's noticed us?
No,
No
no
one
question.
online? Anyone in the audience? The audience is 2 people, and they're both sitting quietly. We'll move to number 5, the consent agenda. With your permission, I'm suffocating. I'm trying to read this thing. I'm going to take this down. Try not to breathe if you're closer than 6 feet to me at the moment. 5.1, adopt resolution 2021-149, authorizing final payment to Kilmer Electric for fiber interconnect for the advanced traffic management system. 5.2, adopt resolution 2021-157, authorizing Scott County's joint participation with Carver County in the Family Homeless Prevention and Assistance Program for 2021 through 2023. 5.3, adopt resolution number 2021-158, approving an amendment to the 2021 through 2030 Transportation Improvement Plan, adding County Project 15-19, where we'll be installing a traffic signal system at the intersection of Highway 15 and Highway 16 out in the west end of Shakopee. 5.4, adopt resolution 2021-160, approving the basic sale price of tax and sales of tax forfeited property in the city of Savage. 5.5, adopt resolution 2021-161, approving 2 full-time equivalents and 1 part-time equivalent position, utilizing American Rescue Plan Act funds and amending the 2021 budget. 5.6, adopt resolution 2021-162, approving the findings of fact and conclusion for Schaefer Property Residential Development and Environmental Assessment Worksheet, and a negative declaration on the need for an EIS. 5.7, excuse me, adopt resolution 2021-164, authorizing entering into a cooperative agreement with the city of New Prague for the Trunk Highway 19 reconstruction project. 5.8, adopt resolution number 2021-167, approving the preliminary 2022 levy of $32,500 and budget for the Scott County Vermilion River Watershed Special Taxing District. 5.9, adopt resolution. Thank you. 5.9, adopt resolution 2021-168, authorizing entering into a cooperative maintenance agreement with the city of Shakopee for County Highway 101. We only have 12 more here. 5.10, adopt resolution 2021-169, approving a contract with Damascus Way Reentry Center for the Reentry and Halfway House Program. 5.11, adopt resolution 2021-170, approving an agreement with Seavers Fall Festival to provide traffic control at the 2021 festival. 5.12, adopt resolution 2021-171, approving entering into an agreement with NAFCare Incorporated for correctional electronic health record system in the amount of $150,000. 5.13, adopt resolution 2021-173, approving the pledge of the general obligation of Scott County, Minnesota to the payment of the governmental development refunding bonds, Scott County, Minnesota Unlimited Tax General Obligation, known as the Brentwood Project. Series 2021A to be issued by the Scott County Community Development Agency, approving the pledge of the special benefits tax to the payment of such bonds, and authorizing the execution and delivery of documents in connection therewith. 5.14, adopt resolution 2021-174, approving an amended and restated indenture of trust related to bonds previously issued by the Scott County Community Development Agency. 5.15, adopt resolution 2021-177, rescinding resolution 2021-154, and adopting revised resolution 2021-177 for the operational enhancement grant agreement with the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. 5.16, adopt resolution number 2021-178, designating the Jordan Independent as the county's official newspaper. 5.17, approve the request for preliminary plat and final plat of the no plow addition consisting of 2 lots on 20 acres, Terry and Renee No Plow. Am I saying that correctly? Is that how we say their name? Anyone know them? Okay. They're the applicants and property owners and the conservation easement in section 16 of Newmarket Township. 5.18, approve a request for preliminary plat and final plat of the Herbert addition consisting of 2 lots on 14 acres, Mark and Susan Herbert, applicants and property owners. This is in section 10 of Newmarket Township. 5.19, approve a solid waste license for a yard and tree waste compost facility to OTI Incorporated in Jackson Township. 5.20, approve the lawful gambling premises permit application for Lakeville South Clay Target Team at the Red Fox Tavern in Newmarket Township for 2021. 5.21, set a public hearing date of September 21st, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. to consider and adopt the preliminary 2022 levy for the Scott Watershed Management Organization Special Taxing District. 5.22, we need to approve the payroll processing of personnel actions. Members, that's the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull one for further consideration or elimination? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you,
I'll second.
Commissioner. And
I just was going to make one comment that
Commissioner Wolf.
it is sad that the Belle Plaine Herald is now in history. Gone. So
It's gone.
That's why we're approving.
that's why the JI is now the.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for
That was the oldest
making
paper and I don't know.
this clear.
Well, almost a state.
Right.
Wow. So this be good.
So
Mr. Chair, just a comment. Yeah, and I know they still are looking for a seller, but as of right now, it's.
Looking for a buyer.
looking for a
Provider,
buyer.
sorry. I just want to thank staff. We had a lot of really important work in this consent agenda, and of course, with it being a holiday weekend, I had some emails with lots of some questions and requests for additional information, and they were, as always, very responsive. So I want to thank staff and everything. I mean, it's good work and really proud of many of these things on this consent agenda.
Thank you for the comments, Commissioner Whitman. I just have one for further elimination on OTI Incorporated on the solid waste yard and tree. We know that our friends at Denton and the Indians have been working on, the Shakopee tribe have been working on something down there. Is this that corporate entity or is this another?
This is different.
This is different. Okay, thank you.
They're working on steps before the organic recycling.
Mhm.
That's not, yeah, it's not yet.
So, yeah.
Good deal. Commissioner Beer, you have any further questions? Be prepared to vote, fully informed. The clerk will take the roll.
Commissioner Whitman-Brecky, Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Beard,
Aye.
Commissioner Beer.
Aye.
Moving to 6.1, received a presentation in the Spirit of Scott second quarter recognition awards. This is always a fun time to hear. Here where we caught people doing something good, we're going to recognize them for it.
Greg Wagner.
Greg?
Mr. Chair, Greg Wagner here representing Spirit of Scott. So I'm going to share my screen. So as you're all familiar, the Spirit of Scott is our year-round recognition program for staff that go above and beyond in their job scope to assist both other employees and the public. We get quarterly nominations and the group then chooses 3 to 4 that we feel went very above and beyond in that quarter. So we chose 3 for quarter 2 of 2021, and I'll just read those for you. The first was Samantha Goldman, nominated by Julie Swanson. Samantha was nominated for the award due to her dedication to assure a 17-year-old youth in foster care was able to receive critical medical care and still be able to join her foster family on what would be the youth's first ever beach vacation. This meant Samantha worked on a Friday of a holiday weekend when she intended to be off, and she was up and working at 4 a.m. to assure the youth was seen by medical providers. This was all in addition to countless hours arranging multiple parts to make it all work out for this youth. So well done, Samantha. Our second nominee was James Holden, nominated by Kaylee Williams. James has gone above and beyond for the past year at least. James was one of the first mental health professionals to go back in person in the face of COVID-19 and provide mental health services to struggling teens in the day treatment program. On top of that, James continues to do jail consults and rearrange his schedule to serve clients that aren't on his caseload. Additionally, he continues to provide many community, school, and Scott County Department mental health trainings to help bring about awareness and take care of ourselves during a pandemic. Day treatment is already a very demanding job, which requires a lot of time, dedication, and energy, and his willingness to still get back to other employees in the community with his knowledge is outstanding. We didn't have pictures of James or Samantha, but we do have pictures of our third nominee, Tracy Cervenka, who we all know. Tracy was nominated by Michael Thompson. On the evening of June 14th, taxation held the annual property valuation appeal hearing in person at the Government Center with a virtual Zoom attendance option for appellants. Mike Thompson arrived just before 5 p.m., about 1 hour before the meeting was to begin, and realized the reserve room did not have a TV screen. This was a significant problem because the board members were attending in person and were told not to bring laptops to interact with virtual appellants. Although it was after hours, Tracy had not yet left for the day. She quickly offered to help convert the children's play area waiting room into an official appeal hearing room. She brought a public laptop and camera down and connected it to the room's wall display. The board members and appellants were able to see each other and hear each other, and the meeting went smoothly. Tracy was willing to stay late with no prior notice, quickly jumped in to assist, and kept a calm demeanor, which was appreciated in an otherwise stressful situation. So we want to congratulate Samantha, James, and Tracy for the Q2 work that they did, as well as all of our other Q2 nominees. We have a lot of people doing a lot of good things, especially with still remote work going on. I do want to point out the Spirit of Scott. We have transitioned our site over to the new SharePoint site, and I think an email went out a week or two ago. So people can nominate fellow employees for good work that they're doing, because we still have a lot of people doing good stuff. So we want to thank the board for your support, and again, congrats to our nominees.
Comments from the board, staff?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I just noted that I don't know the other two employees as well, but Tracy, in the 7 years I've been here, I found her to be, I think, unflappable is the word that comes to mind. When it appears to us like things are coming off the rails, Tracy usually has it figured out. And well, if it actually is coming off the rails, she gets right back on top of the rails. We're rolling in no time. But that's just exemplary of the employees that we have here at Scott County, all three of them, all above and beyond, and taking care of our citizens first and foremost. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
At 6.2, we've our friends at Scott County Defenders have asked if they could make a presentation to us. I want to express my appreciation during this whole COVID thing. They've been able to step back and wait while we sort out how we're doing business and what we're doing in a setting where we have difficulty having people actually on premise and on site making presentations. This is an important issue to them and to all of us, actually. And so I don't know who is leading this speaking this morning. Do we have a name, JJ, that I can address?
I believe they're online. That is that's the information I have.
So are we
It's
going to,
Kevin.
Kevin?
So,
Kevin, are you online? Can you hear us? Kevin Lindell, there you're, okay, and now I see you on the side here, on the sidebar on our computer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Beard, I am here. Just trying to get my video started here.
Okay, thank you. Meeting us virtually today, and I'm sorry you can't be here in person, but as soon as you come up on the screen, I will have you make your presentation.
Fantastic. I don't have anything to present to the group. I just have kind of a prepared statement.
Oh, okay.
So if that's fine. We don't have any visual aids or any PowerPoint stuff like that. So if you just give me a couple minutes to address the board, and then we can go from there.
Kevin, go ahead. You have the floor, and thank you for coming to the meeting today.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. And thanks to all the defenders that are listening in on YouTube. They're also commenting. So this is at the forefront of a lot of our minds right now. So I'll just get into my statement and in the interest of time here. So again, my name is Kevin Lindo. I'm a Scott County resident. I represent a vast majority of Scott County citizens and supporters of the Constitution of the United States. I attended this meeting about 18 months ago, as Mr. Beard alluded to formally petition this board to adopt a resolution affirming to its citizens the right to bear arms would not be infringed by the state and our federal government. At that time, the board agreed to examine this resolution in a workshop session to weigh the merits and the provisions therein. This workshop was subsequently tabled due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, we recognized that the county was best served by the government focusing on the public health mission. But as we see the public health crisis evolve into a more managed response, we again implore the board to dedicate itself to the adoption of our resolution. In the last year, we've seen an unprecedented surge in new gun owners. According to the Star Tribune reports, permits to carry a firearm applications were up 87% year over year between 2019 and 2020. Of those nearly 100,000 applications, 80% were new applicants. Those new owners are learning the importance and responsibility that comes with firearm ownership, as well as the ongoing threat those rights are under at the state and federal level. What the citizens of Scott County now realize more than ever is that the resolution is not just a lofty pledge, but rather a redeclaration of independence, a reaffirmation of our inherent liberty, and a referendum on our elected officials. This resolution calls for the board to uphold and protect the rights guaranteed by the Constitution, specifically the provisions of the Second Amendment. The resolution also calls the board to dedicate Scott County as a Second Amendment dedicated county and to oppose any infringement upon the constitutional rights of its citizens to keep and bear arms. Furthermore, this resolution calls for the board to refuse and/or divert county resources, funding, or other material support to the enforcement of any law, ordinance, or executive order infringing upon the right of eligible Scott County citizens to keep and bear arms. Lastly, this resolution calls for the county to use any legal means, including and without limitation, court action to aid citizens targeted by infringements to their constitutional rights. The resolution does not call the county board to amend, nullify, or ignore state law. Furthermore, this resolution does not prevent Sheriff Hennon from enforcing state law, nor Mr. Hocevar from prosecuting state law within Scott County. However, the county board is well within their power to exercise the appropriation and allocation of resources within their discretionary scope. We demand that this resolution be adopted at the next possible board meeting in its entirety. Amendments to the omissions to any provision of this resolution, specifically the commitments surrounding denial of resources and/or funding towards enforcement and legal action to protect civil rights, of fundamentally unacceptable to myself and the citizens of Scott County. And I thank you again for your time and your consideration before the board. And I'll wait any questions you may have, and then obviously we'll go to next steps.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments for Mr. Lindo at this point? Be appropriate, I suppose, to ask staff if they have any comments. I don't know if the sheriff is online. I'm sure he is. And, Mr. Kosovar is sitting here with us. Any further comments or questions?
I don't have any questions now.
Okay, Kevin, I have just one comment, because after our little get together down at Savage, and we've been talking about it here, and in Association of Minnesota Counties, several of our colleagues around the state have passed a version of a resolution like this. But one of the things that was pointed out to me, and I haven't researched it much further because frankly, our hair has been on fire with this COVID response for the last 18 months, but in Old English law, the sheriff was the highest elected official. And apparently in many eastern states, the sheriff is still the highest elected official. Minnesota, it appears that is not the case. The sheriff is actually an extension of the Attorney General's office, I believe I'm told. And the Attorney General is actually the highest elected official, and county sheriffs are actually statutorily authorized. Have you researched any of that, or can you look into that and make some comments on that before we take this in further?
Absolutely, sir. So what you're kind of referring to is kind of the, I can't remember the Latin term. It's a dominus, something dominus about the highest elected official in a certain area or a district. Essentially what I think you're alluding to is that this resolution has no authority, essentially, other than maybe a symbolic gesture. But there's case law currently that actually was used to justify the Texas law, the constitutional carry law, that can add some more context to what powers counties have over that. And I can share that documentation with you after the meeting or offline. But essentially, what this resolution really gets towards is the fact that you have power with your discretionary income. And again, we're not trying to deny Sheriff Hennon from executing his duties as the chief law enforcement officer of Scott County, by no means, nor Mr. Hocevar from doing any of the enforcement actions that he needs to do as a prosecuting attorney. But what we can do is, let's just say notionally, a red flag or a confiscation order comes from the state government. And essentially Sheriff Henning comes to the board and says, I'm going to need 2 or 3 extra officers in order to build this task force to execute this mission. And there's nothing saying that Sheriff Henning can't execute this mission. Essentially, is what we're saying is that the board will dedicate themselves to not allocating additional resources towards that mission within their scope. Obviously, if there's legal considerations, that's Mr. Hosevar's kind of bandwidth to occupy that space and figure out what you can do within legal means, obviously. But the biggest thing that I want everyone on this board to take away, and everybody who's listening in, as well as the nearly 700 Facebook members that we have, and also an additional 300 people signed up at the Scott County Fair at our last event with their putting their support back behind this group. So the biggest takeaway I want you guys to take away is that we're dedicated to preserving the constitutional rights that we have within the scope of power that the county board all has.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing the question and at least that response. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions or comments? The thing done, well, Kevin, thank you for getting on the agenda and for making your presentation. We'll probably take this up on a workshop as a board and make sure you're advised of that if we do that, and we'll consider our next steps here. But thank you for making it very clear.
Fantastic, Mr. Beard, and thank you to the rest of the board and Mr. Hosvar and Sheriff Hennon as well as the county team who helped organize this. Tracy, congratulations on your award and for getting us set up for that. So appreciate it again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, members, having passed through 6.1 and 2, let's move to 7.1. The time 9:30 is the time that we set for comments on the adoption of amendments to ordinance number 17. It is not quite 9:30 yet. So perhaps let's see if we can move to 8.1 without objection.
Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to skip over the public hearing at 9:30 and come back to that. 8.1 is to adopt resolution 2021-172 concerning the budget for the Scott County Community Development Agency. Is there someone here that's going to take that presentation? Is that Danny or Leslie or not? It's just going to take that.
That is going to be Julie and Bill from the CDA.
Oh,
They're
they'll be
going to
online.
present- Yep, Julie's online. They are going to present like they normally do their budget report.
Okay. When their presentation appears on the screen, we'll give them the green flag.
Well, good morning, commissioners. Are you able to see
Here we go.
the presentation here?
Yeah.
Yep, we're good, Julie.
Great. Has Bill made it online? Can you see?
I have not seen him yet, just you.
All right. Well, we will, let's see, that up there.
Just notify us.
It's 9:30.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning again, commissioners. Bill will be joining us here, I believe, shortly. So my name is Julie Siegert. I'm the housing director here at the CDA, and we are here with the management team. Stacy Crakes is online, Adam Johnson, our finance director, and Linda Janowski as well. So we just have a few slides to run through, and then hopefully an opportunity to answer any of your questions along the way as well. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Stacy, and she's going to take the first few slides.
Thank you, Julie. Stacy, welcome to the board meeting this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here, as Julie mentioned. And I think, I get to kind of kick off things with our first slide, just as a reminder to talk about how we've been really intentionally focusing on these areas with our values and our vision from the past couple years. So this is something that we've kind of shaped all of our different programs around and intend to continue driving towards how we promote these different values through all of the different programs and work that we do. And then on the next slide, we're going to talk about some of the opportunities that we have pursued. So if you look at the list here, you can see there's a number of different things listed out, and it's definitely not all inclusive, but it's a good representation of what we've been spending a lot of our time on over the last year. So the Elka Newmarket Utility Extension Project is one of the projects that we are helping to provide some backstop financing on. And we are happy to report that that project sounds like it is complete and that there has been additional interest along that corridor for commercial and industrial projects already. So we're excited to see what comes from that. Strategic planning, we've been working on that for the past few months now. We're about halfway through that process, and it's been really interesting to review each of our programs and see how it kind of fits into the big picture of what the CDA is here to help do. And with that, we will be completing that project by the end of this year and coming up with a plan moving forward. The housing blueprint, Julie, I think, is going to touch on that in a little bit. We are also sanctioned Maxfield to do an update to our comprehensive housing and commercial industrial studies again this year. And so we've begun working with them to do those updates. And the goal is to have those done, I'll say end of this year, but I'm guessing it'll be first quarter of next year. And then the Center for Entrepreneurship and the Business Loan Program and the Economic Development Assistance Program are all programs that fall within the First Stop Shop. And I'll be touching base on those in the next couple slides. So with that, we'll move on to economic growth. And as I mentioned, the first thing I want to kick off with is an update on our new Center for Entrepreneurship. So first, I wanted to say thank you to the commissioners that were able to come to our open house last week. It was great to have so many people come by and check out the space and see what it is that we're up to with that program. But essentially, the CDA wanted to create kind of a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. And we have partnered with Southwest Metro Schools to utilize space in their new building in Shakopee. And in that space, we are now going to be housing 3 of our different programs. One is the Next Stage for Entrepreneurs program, which is our program here in Scott County that provides one-on-one advising services and access to funding for entrepreneurs. We're also going to house our Fast Track Business Challenge, which is the annual competition that we have for entrepreneurs to kind of pitch their new ideas to a panel of judges and win prizes to help them get their businesses off the ground. That program and event will be held October 21st. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that as planned. And it will be open to the public this year. So we're excited about that. And then the last program that's housed under that umbrella is the new Business Accelerator program. So Joe Faust and I have worked out of Prior Lake City Hall for the last 4 years, roughly, with the Technology Village Accelerator program. And we've decided to build upon that and expand it. So that program has transitioned over to this new space. And we have a few additional offices that we're able to lease out to businesses that are interested in having an office space where they can come work. But we're also working on expanding that virtual program as well. And the nice thing about that program is that each person who participates gets linked up with a mentor. And that mentor checks in with them probably, I guess it depends on the business itself, but at least quarterly, if not monthly, to make sure that a business is on track and has somebody that they can turn to when they have questions. So all of those different program areas, we're really excited to finally be able to have an opportunity to expand on what is there And we're looking forward to doing that through the Center for Entrepreneurship. The other thing I wanted to mention really quick is the community resource website. And so I know you guys have heard about this project many times, and there was some CARES funding that went towards it to help build out this website. Great Scott is what the website is, and we are working on a soft launch at this time. Barb Dahl and I have been working very closely with the state of Minnesota and our consultant, Zeb Carlson, to try and figure out how we make sure that the jobs that are being fed through this site are the jobs that we want to have fed through this site. And so there's been some hiccups along the way, but we are right there, almost ready to go finally with this website. If we go to the next slide, looking ahead, where we plan to spend our time is really building out those Center for Entrepreneurship programs and continuing to look for other areas where it seems like we can kind of fill gaps and pick things up related to economic development here in the county. We are going to be working towards officially launching our Economic Development Assistance Program, which is the program that is targeted at cities to help fund different projects that will promote economic development in their cities. So an example would be the Elka Newmarket project would fall under that particular program. And so we're going to pull together guidelines for an official program around those types of projects. We're also working on a business loan program. So that will be money that can be used by businesses to help fill different gaps. And we've been working closely with Next Stage for Entrepreneurs on that. So the plan is to get that launched by the end of this year, and then continue to manage and modify as needed that Great Scott website. So when we get that launched, hopefully in the next month or so, there's going to be some ongoing work to make sure that that's staying fresh and being promoted. And that will most likely be a lot of what we end up working on towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year. So that's just a quick snapshot look at some of the things economic development wise that we've been working on here at the CDA. And I'm going to turn it over to Julie again to talk about affordable homes.
Thank you, Stacy. So as we shift into affordable homes, I know that you are familiar with a lot of the language, but this is just a reminder of the programs that the CDA administers across our housing portfolio. And really, you can see that this is a wide range of households that we serve, and incomes from our most vulnerable and our lowest income represented on the left of the screen up to our moderate income households. So our deep subsidy units, these are really our federal and state subsidy programs that the CDA applies for and receives federal and state funds through various sources in order to provide safe and stable homes to just under 800 households across our county. Those 800 households represent 2,845 people, of which 1,530 of them are children. We were able to open our waiting list for our Housing Choice Voucher program, which is formerly known as Section 8, this past year, and the need for these programs continues to exist. During just a 1-week period, we accepted 2,242 applications. The average income of those applicants was $17,884. We were able to place 500 of those on a waiting list by a lottery of preferences, and we'll be serving those folks as other people go off of the program. Due to the variety of the federal funds that the CDA receives and being able to position these programs do fund themselves, which means we do not use any local funds for these federal programs, which allows us to really focus on the programs on the right as we move across the continuum. And these are really pathways for upward mobility for our rent subsidy participants. And I'll go through a few things about each of them on the next couple of slides.
Julie, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
What did you say about the $17,000 income? There was a few people with that number. What was that again?
So that was the average income of the people who were applying to get on the waiting list for our Section 8 program.
That's like $8 an hour. Isn't it?
Correct. Yep. So it's extremely low income of the people who are needing that assistance across our county. So people who are on Social Security disability, who may not be employed at the time, who may have just Social Security. Those are the types of incomes that we're seeing a need for these deep subsidy programs.
Thank you.
Did you hear that too?
So as we transition to our workforce housing, Scott County, as you know, has had tremendous success the past few years, increasing the supply of our shallow subsidy tax credit units here in our county. And the INVEST program is the program that the CDA uses to leverage these private and public resources to partner with developers to bring these units to our community. There are 2 applications that are pending right now. You are certainly familiar with Prairie Point here in Shakopee. That would be 42 units of supportive housing. And then the rendering is a picture of Main Street lofts. This would be a first for Elka Newmarket and would bring 61 units of tax credit housing to that community. That would be a great addition in light of the groundwork that has been laid through the utility extension project that Stacy described earlier. So if the 2 applications that are pending are approved, we would be at 472 units. And if you compare that to the demand that we received from the last Maxfield study, that would be at 75% of the demand. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this a complete list of all of these types of housing in Scott County? Or are there other developers that are coming into the county that aren't working through CDA?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Beard. I'm sorry, you're cutting off a little bit.
That's fine.
So these are the units that have come online since the Maxfield study was completed in 2017. Prior to that, there were 530, I believe, approximately tax credit units that existed in the county. So these are just units that are coming online that have a shallow subsidy in them.
Well, that wasn't the question, Jill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have other units been built outside of this list that aren't going through CDA? Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, so actually, this list includes units that, so Pineview Townhomes, for example, was built in Jordan. The CDA did not provide any support there. The city of Jordan provided TIF assistance to that. So that unit there is represented. Otherwise, the CDA has provided deferred loans to these other developments that you see represented here.
Julie,
That's not the question.
Julie, does any workforce housing get built within the community without CDA supports? I think that's.
Yeah, if I could, commissioners, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, Commissioner Beard, I believe your question referred to the private developers building market rate rental housing in the county. Am I correct?
Yes.
The answer to your question is yes, and typically that housing, again, is at a market rate, which is much higher. I see you shaking your head.
The question is, can a developer come to Scott County and build a workforce housing like this that has that shallow and deep subsidies, and do that by working directly with the state or another agency without working with CDA? That's the question.
The answer to your question is yes, they could.
Okay,
Although the rating system over at the MHFA, and it's a highly competitive system, gives the developers who do apply, and they are private developers, a leg up in terms of the scoring points to get the tax credit funding in order to build the units.
so, okay. Perhaps I'll stop. I don't want to drag this out. I'll ask you another time about deepening that question, but let's let Julie go ahead.
Apologize for that, Commissioner Beard.
That's the point. Yes. Okay. Okay.
So as we transition on into our homeownership programs that we serve, the CDA was excited to celebrate our first community land trust buyer earlier this year. Nemo is pictured here, and she was actually one of our rent subsidy participants and worked hard to become a homeowner and is now enjoying her backyard with her family. I just want to give hats off to Linda Janowski, who's on this call. She's really been the one who's been leading this program along the way, from putting in the guidelines in place, applying for grants so that we have the subsidies available to assist, to looking for the homes to acquire. In addition to our community land trust program, the CDA has multiple homeownership services that are represented on the side of the screen there. These include first-time homebuyers. We do workshops that are either in person or virtual. We also work one-on-one with people who are interested in diving deeper into their particular situation. Then for people who are currently homeowners, we do have foreclosure prevention counseling services that are available. These are for folks who may be concerned about their ability to pay their mortgage or who are currently behind. We are certainly keeping an eye on that, as there's been a number of programs that have been put in place through the CARES Act that have put forbearance in place for a lot of homeowners. Minnesota Housing will be providing a new home help program so that people who are behind on their mortgage could receive some assistance through that. That should be rolling out in the coming weeks, is my understanding. Our last affordable homes here are 55 plus developments. Brentwood Terrace was the last property open in Jordan in 2020. This was our 9th building, and we are now serving just under 480 senior households across our portfolio. All of our properties are doing great in terms of occupancy. And as you can see, we have a strong waiting list for all of these developments. In addition to providing affordable homes, we also provide services that support all people's lives. So if you think about the continuum and supporting people once they're housed in order to help them have a pathway to home ownership or to being a continued renter with less subsidy over time. One of the ways we do that is by providing educational scholarships. These are our 3 scholarship winners from this past grant application that we did with them. So we are investing in the children who are in the household of our rent subsidy programs, as well as adults on our programs who are looking to increase their education in order to have better employment opportunities along the way. This past year, we also spent a lot of time working in collaboration with our school districts, with the CAP agency, with the county, looking at our homeless students across the county and how can we better support them. We received a planning grant and learned, particularly with the Shakopee district, who has the largest number of homeless students, how can we better connect those homeless students and their families with the homeless response system in order to stabilize those kiddos and their families so that they can get back to learning. It was a successful learning, and we have applied for a grant to actually have a program to do that, and should be finding out in the next couple of months if we were awarded funding for that. And then finally on this screen, you can see the number of partnerships that we do with your Health and Human Services to support folks with different disabilities and barriers to housing in mental health and community corrections and child protection. And I think really all of the work that, you know, Stacy and I have highlighted here that has been being done by a great team here at the CDA. Really what we're trying to do is cooperate with the communities, cooperate with the city, the cities in our community, with the county. I think this description really emphasizes the work that we do to inform, listen, and sync community aspirations to develop solutions that have a positive impact on the citizens of the county. We highlighted a number of these areas across the presentation. The housing blueprints, you received that in a workshop a few weeks ago, but that was a collaboration of taking the work that was done through the comprehensive plans of all of the cities in the county and looking at where can we align efforts as we move forward to implement those plans. So with that, I will turn it over to Bill to take you through the rest of the presentation.
Bill, good morning. Welcome to the board meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Beard. You know, it's kind of the first week of fall here and I almost feel like it's first day of school. It's been kind of a different kind of morning. Anyway, we'll go ahead and talk a bit about the 2022 CDA budget and the levy request. The bottom line is the levy, as you know, is tied to taxable market valuation, and that's based on a fixed formula. The levy increase for 2021 was $247,351, and for 2022, it's projected to be $241,933. So it's very comparable going from the 2 years, and that's the summary of that. The revenue and the expenses. You might note the 2022 budget looks higher because it is, but that's primarily due to a conversion that we did at Prior Manor and some impact of rent increases. And if you have any questions on that, our finance director, Adam Johnson, is standing by to answer any questions that you may have. Again, very comparable. Pie chart again shows pretty much same budgeted use of tax levy dollars from 21 to 22. And as I've indicated in the past, there are 3 buckets of bucks that the levy supports. The first bucket is general operations within the agency. The second bucket, of course, is our annual contribution to the 55+ buildings, debt service. And the third is what's left over that funds the INVEST program, which again, as I mentioned earlier, with tax credit application, competitive scoring at the state, having a deferred loan from the CDA is a big advantage in getting those awards. And so with that, I'm thanking you on behalf of the CDA board and your continued support. Again, the CDA and our staff looks forward to working shoulder to shoulder with the county as we meet the challenges of 2022, given all the challenges that we've been dealing with over the last 18 months or so. So with that, I'm going to close off and we'll go ahead and turn it back to county board, and staff will stand by to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Japp. I appreciate the presentation. Members, questions?
I don't have any questions. I guess, Mr. Chair, just a comment. I thank the CDA and encourage them to continue to work with with county staff on these initiatives because we're working towards some of the same goals. And I think we can only continue to increase that communication, cooperation, collaboration, and make sure we're not operating in silos. So I appreciate that progress that's been made there and hope we can continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Beer, I don't see you on the screen. Any questions?
Can you remind me again, Mr. Chair, Bill, what's the increase percentage again?
The increased percentage, are you talking about the market valuation, Commissioner Beer?
The levy.
Like the levy?
Yes, it's approximately 7%, which is comparable to what we had the previous year. And again, that's based on market valuation. And we don't have any control over that, but that's the formula under state statute.
Yeah. And that's, so that's what we deal with is, looking at, we're trying to keep things under 4 and, this 7 comes in, it's like, wow. So that's my comment.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. Those were the 2 questions I had. First of all, the levy increase of 7% for the CDA levy. That is right off the increased valuation and new construction in the county that came on the tax rolls. Is that a correct assumption, Bill?
Yes, if I understand the question correctly. Yeah, the valuation is based on the increase in market values and
So we haven't increased the rate at all. We just are accepting the.
well, the actual, when you talk the rate, Commissioner Beard, are you talking about the rate that's applied?
The rate
Valuation?
Yes, we just apply that and.
Yes, and that's a fixed rate. That's part of state statute.
The second question on your revenue and expenses on your next to last page there. It looks about a $3.6 million surplus budget over expenses. Where does that money go? How does it get to go back to work, Bill?
Yeah. Adam, would you step into the well?
Sure, so if we could put that slide up again. I want to make sure we're looking at the same piece.
Budget comparison page, revenue and expenses.
Cindy Geis said she could elaborate a little bit too, so.
I see your answer there is yes.
Okay, so you're looking at the operating income from, it's not actually in the template. The operating income is about 3.6 million, but when you go down a little bit and see how much debt service we pay, so our debt service principal or our debt service contributions are about 3.46 million. So there's not really a $3.6 million surplus. Once we cover debt service, there's a little surplus there, about 175,000, but it's not 3.6 million once we pay for the debt service.
Looking at this chart, you could understand where the question comes from. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if in the dollar variances is what you're looking at.
No, actually, I was looking at budget to budget.
Revenue to expenses.
Revenue to expenses. That's all I was doing.
Okay. Yeah. So we in the net operating income, I could share my screen and kind of show what that looks like if you don't mind here. So what you're seeing there is this number right here.
Yeah.
And down here is where we book our debt service. So there's not a $3.6 million surplus like we're realizing a $3.6 million increase in our net position. It's a pretty minimal increase. It's a little more than last year, but it's in the grand scheme of things, it's only about 175,000.
Okay, thank you. That explains it.
Also, I believe on my screen, I saw Cindy. That she may have some information to add to your earlier question, Commissioner Beard.
Thank you. Ms. Geis, if you're on the screen and care to comment, the floor is yours.
Is
Are you there?
Yes,
Uh,
can you hear me?
Cindy?
Oh, hang
Cindy,
on.
you're really quiet.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
When can we hear
Yeah.
you now? There you go.
Hang on here. I want to make sure that my speaker is up. How's that? Any better?
Sound great. Cindy, you're good.
Okay. So when we look at the CDA levy, when we're looking at what do we multiply a certain percentage against when we look at market value, one thing I wanted to clarify, Commissioner Beard, it isn't against new construction. It's against the entire market value. So as we know, the increases to home values last year and which will continue next year as well has gone up quite a bit more. So the percentage that's indicated in state law is stagnant, but it's not the tax rate like you alluded to. You asked the question, will the CDA's tax rate go up? Now, I was not involved in the levy and seeing this levy beforehand, so I haven't had a chance to calculate that. So I can't really comment whether the tax rate will go up or whether it will go down. What I can tell you is the flat percentage that's indicated in state law multiplied against the total market value of Scott County, not just new construction, is the max levy of the CDA. The CDA can go beneath that amount, but they cannot go above it.
Thank you.
So,
That helps clarify that. Thank you, Cindy, for the comments.
all right, you're welcome.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, commissioners, further questions, comments? The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-172, approving the 2022 budget in the amount of $14,632,234. Need the rest?
No, that's not necessary. Well, there's the motion.
Second?
There's a second. Further discussions, questions, comments? Mr. Beer, fully informed? Ready to vote?
Fully informed. I thank you, Mr. Chair. This is always one of those odd moments where we're approving, for me anyway, approving a budget that we really have very little impact over, but been there, done that. So thank you for that question.
You're welcome. You go back into the witness protection program now. The clerk will take the roll.
Commissioner Whitmer-Brady,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Beard,
Aye.
Commissioner Beer,
Aye.
The motion prevails. The resolution is adopted. Members, let's go back to the public hearing at 7.1. And I need to apologize. I noticed when I was looking at the official time, my little Timex timepiece said it was 9:24. It was actually 9:29. We could have probably had the public hearing on time, but thank you for your forbearance. And so we'll conduct a public hearing. First of all, I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. Clerk, take the roll.
Commissioner Whitmer-Brady,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Beard,
Aye.
Commissioner Beer.
Aye.
The motion prevails. The meeting is open. Let's see, who is up for this presentation? Leslie?
Mr. Hosevar.
Mr. Hosevar is going to lead us off. All right.
Mr. Board. This came up because of the, our tobacco ordinance, the county tobacco ordinance was out of date.
Mhm.
So I came to the attention of the board and so in your direction, we went back and revised our tobacco ordinance to get it basically in compliance with federal law. There was a workshop that the board participated about this issue. Where you had some good discussions about the tobacco ordinance and we wanted to have done with it. So given the feedback from the board, we revamped the ordinance to get into compliance with federal law and also under the board's direction to also eliminate the flavored vaping along with that tobacco ordinance. This is a bifurcated public hearing because letters were sent out to license holders who would be affected by this for today's hearing. But as the board noted earlier, our official newspaper went out of business, so we had to do another public notice. with our new newspaper. So that's the second of the hearing for this bifurcated hearing will be September 21st. So that's why it's happening in 2 steps. So you have the ordinance in front of you for the board package, and that's what we come up with. That's what we came up with pursuant to board's direction.
Thank you, Mr. Hosevar, for the explanation. This is a public hearing, and in a moment, I'm going to call for public comment on this part. Remind me, though, that we need to deal with the setting the second public hearing. Probably will have to be a motion.
Right. The notices were sent out to license holders. I haven't seen any license holders here today, whether we haven't noticed any online, but you can certainly call for that.
It was for the license holders today, Mr. Chairman. We have not been contacted by any of the 8 that was sent to.
Okay. But bifurcated thing due to the collapse of the newspaper, or the vanishing of it. So we'll have to set a public hearing to continue. Or can we just make that declaration?
It'll be a separate public hearing. It's part of your motion today for this.
Got it. Okay, with that, there are some members of the public I know here that may want to comment, or staff, actually, I guess. No, the mayor is not staff. He acts like it sometimes. Be happy to have him comment if he wishes. Otherwise, JJ, has anybody approached us online that would like to comment? I will to the public just mention that we've received probably a dozen letters, emails, I should say, regarding this issue as commissioners, at least this commissioner has. And I imagine we've all been copied on that. Anyone else, JJ, is asked to be up online?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you feel compelled to comment, or anyone else? Judge, Your Honor, you want to speak to us?
If anyone would like to, please.
Yeah.
Get my own iPad. I like it.
If you're afraid of JJ, you can slide 6 feet away.
I'm not afraid of JJ.
Some of us are.
You're not going to hurt me, JJ?
Not yet.
Okay. I appreciate that. Good morning.
Thank you for coming today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a little bit of an odd situation to be in, but I've had a chance to look at the proposed language put forth by Mr. Hosevar, and I think it's a good start. I think it lacks a number of points that it probably should have. I don't think this is the fault of the county attorney's office. I know that there were other organizations that worked very hard to get information to public health, and then from public health to Mr. Hosevar. And I think that because of miscommunication and or red tape, et cetera, that information got to the county attorney's office far too late. I won't go into too many specifics, except to say that I think that there needs to be an expanded statement of the purpose of what we're trying to do here. Generally,
I muted him.
JJ, well done. And listen, if you want to mute me, let me know when. It speaks to generally about the health effects of tobacco on young people, doesn't put citations in, fails to identify critical facts that have prompted the ordinance, et cetera. There are issues with the preciseness of definitions throughout the proposed language. There's other issues in here that, for instance, doesn't prohibit free samples. As long as these places are handing out free samples under the proposed ordinance, that would be actually allowed. Under the ordinance as it's written right now, it actually will ban cigars that I don't think it's meant to do. So I know that the group from the Association for Non-Smokers has sent pretty comprehensive language. And as we sit now, I think that there are approximately 20 other resolutions that have been passed or are in front of different cities. And so we're not literally creating the wheel here. It's already been created. At least 10 or 12 of those are very comprehensive. And a number of those actually go to the point where they are looking ahead. So as we know with the tobacco industry, at first, resolutions tried to take care of the food piece. So in other words, they would talk about food names to their products. And so a lot of the ordinances banned food names and things associated with food. And so what the tobacco companies do essentially after that is they, instead of using mint, they use Arctic. And then when we take care of Arctic, they change it to Jazz or Purple Sensation. And they just keep moving the envelope so that the ordinances aren't comprehensive. And so the people from the non-smoking have provided language that essentially is going to ensure that you don't have to every single year redo your ordinance over and over again. So my suggestion would be that not that the Belle Plaine paper was a good thing happening, but that this actually gives an opportunity for the county attorney's office, now that they have more time to take a look and have provided the information, to potentially take a look and see if they want to beef up the ordinance just in terms of language, so that it kind of closes down the loopholes.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
You bet.
Generally, we don't grill our testifiers, but here's your opportunity.
It can be under oath if you want.
No, it's a public hearing. We don't put people under oath. So let them state their thoughts, opinions, and go from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Anyone else would like to comment? Well, members, questions amongst ourselves here. So do we want to let
I guess I'd like the county attorney to respond to that and what it would take if, you know, his thoughts on the proposed language. And I assume it would be a, I mean, we'd have to republish, because I republished the rules language into this change.
You would, excuse me, you would need to republish. Myself and several other attorneys did review a lot of the language that Judge Wilson talked about that was sent to us by public health. And it was, as Judge Wilson indicated, much more expansive than what's contained in this ordinance. And that, in our opinion, a lot of it was unnecessary. It's just a lot of it's, I guess, was in our opinion, a lot of form over substance, and then also was much more expansive than the board's direction to my office to draft. There was quite a bit of discussion even on as far as the vapor or the flavor of the vapor. So we drafted the ordinance that was instructed for us to draft, and we did review a lot of the language that was proposed to us by public health and the organization that Judge Wilson spoke with. And we just felt it was much more expansive, and a lot of it was unnecessary. So what the board's direction is.
So the ordinance that was drafted and presented us complies with the state law changes that it puts us in compliance there.
That's correct.
And could cities, there's now 8 cities in the county, could they just defer to the county ordinance then for enforcement in their communities? Or do they have to have their own city ordinance in order to enforce? That's a clarifying question.
Like Prior Lake has their own city ordinance, so that's, of course, yes, the cities can draft their own ordinances. This is county ordinance.
And for Elka, Newmarket, we license on behalf of Elka.
Okay, so the jurisdictions where we have responsibility outside the city limits are 7. Okay.
And Credit River, just in their infancy, could do something like Elka, Newmarket, yes.
Thank you for the clarifying. The one thing the judge brought up, and I had a question on too, was the food names or flavored cigars. You know, I smoke 3 whole cigars a year. Havana Honeys are my favorite. Are they now going to be illegal if we would pass this, if I bought them in Scott County, or is that one of the proposals we got from the 20-something else we got saying, company ordinance?
Right. I do smoke cigars. I didn't realize that caught me by surprise too. I didn't know about the cigars. I didn't see where that would be.
Okay.
No, but I might certainly take Doug Gold's word for that, but,
We have another 2 weeks to make sure that we correct whatever mistake is in there, whatever
right.
nuance might be interpreted differently.
Yeah. So I can certainly look at that. I didn't, I certainly take his word for that, but I didn't know this stuff.
Further questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm not a big smoker, but with the county being golf courses, cigars that sometimes go hand in hand. So we have been given a little bit of time here. Maybe we do take another bite at the apple or nibble at it anyway. And just put another set of eyes on it with some of this new information, see if something new comes up. Because honestly, I don't really want to go through this again in the near term if we don't have to, if we can take a little bit of time here and button it up. I know, you know, we can't tell the future, but it should be nice to have it a little more locked down now, a few more hurdles in place for the future while we have this opportunity.
Okay.
I would say piggyback, Mr. Chair, onto what Commissioner Beers, I'd rather get it right than to be first or quick.
Okay.
So I agree with that.
Well, procedurally then, setting aside the content at the moment, we kind of, I think, have a consensus. The content is going to be massaged and worked on.
So I want to make sure that Ron and I understand. So you want a stricter ordinance?
I didn't say that, but apparently there's a couple of things we probably should read through it again.
Well, our ordinances don't typically go, you know, one of the things the judge raised was like the health background and all of that. Our ordinances don't necessarily list all of those types of things, but you won't see those necessarily historically in those. But some of the terms and things like that, you know,
And now we're talking workshop. I'm reluctant.
I think you're right.
Every day. But if we're going to talk about flavors and the whole menthol thing and the whole racial equity business that's tied to that, that's way beyond the depth, I think, of what we want to talk about here today. Sounds like another workshop topic to me. And if we're going to make it tougher, that means we're going to be backtracking as a board and recasting our vision. And I remember that was an intense discussion about how much is personal responsibility and how much is us protecting people who don't know better instead of people who shouldn't know better. I think that was part of the discussion. And so I'm reluctant to make it tougher that way. But there have been some things in emails that I would like us to maybe consider. Maybe a second look, that's this commissioner, which is the one speaking to that. And certainly the one about the unintentional banning of things like this. If that's the case, we should probably extract ourselves from that if we wish.
And Mr. Chair, that's what I was referring to earlier, was a lot of the things that were talked about by Dr. Walton in public health. I went to a lot of definitions and background and why we're doing things like that. And as Leslie pointed out, we typically don't get into that with our county ordinances. And it's like, and you have to also remember, it's already illegal to sell under 21. This is strictly getting into federal compliance and compliance and doing the flavored vaping and to hopefully keep it out of our hands of kids in the marketing. But those things are already illegal. So
can we make them more illegal or illegaler? I'm sorry, the procedures. Commissioner Brett.
I think we're on the right path here. I don't think we're making it stricter. I think we're looking at the flavored cigar issue because we think that is an important issue. Maybe just a one more. I really agree with my colleagues here. I don't think we're going to get into the reasons and the citation too much in our ordinance because we need some standards in our ordinances. But I think that's it. And then my question is, if we're going to make a change to our draft ordinance because of that, or there's the possibility of it, should we continue this public hearing for 2 meetings from now and make sure we get all of compliance with everything?
we will have to notify license holders again anyway.
So I think we continue it to not the next meeting, but 2 weeks.
Yeah, because that has a day requirement too, so we have to make sure we meet that. So you could very well be out into maybe the second meeting in October. By the time we get it redrafted, we get it out to the licensees, we get, is it 30 days in the draft?
Yes, I would recommend doing this, mid-October, end of October.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, I think that's
Let's
okay,
get it
and
right.
that just gives another chance for us, for you to, think if there's anything else that got brought up.
Leslie, what do you think about how you want this resolution crafted for motion? And what the particularly that is? I'm gonna ask Judge Wilton and Mr. Hosevar a question we probably won't answer today, but I want you to know this has been debated at the legislature at length. And that's what we used to call the doctrinal statements. People would introduce a bill and the first 3 or 4 paragraphs will be the grand hope about what this bill is all about. You know, the climate's changing, people are gonna die, turtles are gonna drown, whatever. Therefore, the legislature says, and some of that stuff actually makes it in the statute books. And I remember a retired judge by the name of Jack, it'll come to me, he was off the Ramsey County bench. Came to see me one day.
Vandenberg. Jack Vandenberg?
No, what was the name? Anyhow, got a long lecture on why this was a poor way to write statutes, because basically he said you're hanging all kinds of pegs for legal mischief in a statement of purpose in the statute. If you do that, just say drowning turtles will be illegal, period. You don't have to say we love turtles and turtles are God's gift. We don't have to say all that. And so we took a tack that when a bill came to our committee that had a doctrinal statement in it, we'd delete that. We'd just amend the bill and we'd leave the rest of the bill, and then we'd debate the merits of the bill. Did I just hear you say we needed to have that in this ordinance? So it explains why, you know, we love the children, we don't kick puppies, therefore we shouldn't have flavored stuff. Is that what you're looking for here? Does that actually give more teeth to the bill?
I'm not looking for that, but
like I say, this may be over a
yeah, but I would say
some night after hours, but
what I would say generally is that if there's a lawsuit, this ordinance has to stand on its own.
Mhm.
They're not going to care what other 1,000 Scott County ordinances look like, and whether you do this or not. And a lot of times, the statement of the purpose and what's contained there within is going to, they're going to take a look and say whether or not it meets the purpose. And so, and so it is important as to, if it's vague as to what you're trying to do, then you have the pinholes where you're hanging a lot of things.
thank you for your comments on that. Yes, okay, then. But just know that that is a debate that had raged and continues. Whether or not that's a good way to legislate or pass ordinances, or whether we just state what we're for again. That's kind of the thought. You don't have to add comments if you don't want wrong at this moment. Leslie, I kind of jogged in place enough time to give you an idea.
Yeah,
of what we want.
I think to meet the time frames, we're safe and probably setting the next public hearing for October 19th. Ron can work with the comments and your direction to pursue another draft. And we could have the public hearing on October 19th.
Okay. Okay. Before we do that, let's close this public hearing. I'll take that motion.
So
Second. The motion and the second to close the public hearing. Clerk, take the roll.
Commissioner Whitman-Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
I,
Public hearing is closed. Okay. Now then, amongst ourselves, do you need a resolution or a motion today to set that on the 19th? That would say this is step next week.
it would set it, so you could set the continued public hearing for October 19th, 2021 at 9:30.
That's the motion the chair will entertain.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion to that motion? Got the mystery man on the screen up there. No. Okay. Clerk, take the roll.
Commissioner Whitman-Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
All right.
Commissioner Beard.
I,
Motion prevails. The next public hearing is set for 9:30, October 19th. And with that, dispose of this item then. Well, members, that brings us to number 9, committee reports and commissioner updates. Let's start with Commissioner Beer. Are you on the screen there? Can you anything to report other than your vacation?
Yeah, I wish. Laying low, that's for sure. On the 24th, Fish Partner Relations. On the 25th, Prior Lake Quarterly. 26th, Fish Board. 31st, the workshop. And then also on the 31st, IWG, which were all on Zoom for obvious reasons. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rebecca, you ready for a report?
I'm always ready. Thank you. August 17th, we had workshop after our last board meeting. August 18th, we had the law library board meeting. Just continued good work by our law librarian, helping citizens get on Zoom if they don't have those capabilities and participate in their hearings. I really think the whole role of our law library has changed a lot during this pandemic. August 18th also had the Scott County Historical Society board meeting. That group, they did have some issues with insurance on the Stan's house, but that's been solved now, and the board has gotten bigger, more members have joined, a more diverse group, and I think it's going very well. August 19th, the Scott County Library Board of Trustees monthly meeting. Some spirited discussion about library fines and the future of library fines and what they do and don't do. And I think we'll be hearing about that. This board will be hearing about that later this year. August 20th, the Dakota Scott Workforce Development Board meeting. One of the speakers of that meeting was Jeff Hansen from the CAP agency, making sure that folks on that board understand the CAP agency's program. And then just continued discussion on getting people to the labor force and helping those folks who have some barriers get back in. August 23rd was our Metro Alliance for Healthy Families board meeting. Just a reminder that is a alliance of 11 metro area and out a little bit out counties, and we pull together grant funds for family home visiting. That meeting had to be continued to August 31st because we did not have a quorum of commissioners there. So getting back in person is creating some issues. August 24th, I was on a panel with Mayor Mars and Senator Pratt for the Leadership Shakopee Group, the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce group of leaders. That was at high school, that was good. August 24th was our Scott County Mental Health Local Advisory Council. August 25th, the Together We Can subcommittee on dual family systems. Much of the talk there was on our family resource centers and working hard to help people who work with families who need more assistance to get there and get resources they need or get connected so that they don't need us. August 31st, we had County Board Workshop. I mentioned August 31st was that Metro Alliance continued meeting. September 1st, Leslie and I had our quarterly meeting with the mayor and city administrator of Belle Plaine. Talking a lot about some downtown reconstruction projects they're going to be undergoing the next 2 years, our role on a county road, and then of course heard that morning about the Belle Plaine Herald. So that was sad news. And then also on September 1st, attended the open house for our Scott County CDA Center for Entrepreneurship. I think that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 19th, we had an insurance committee meeting. All's going pretty good there. Numbers look really good. They're actually going to talk, we're talking about giving some holidays for some premiums. The 23rd, Elka Newmarket had their monthly or actually we met with the city administrator and the mayor of Elka Newmarket. See how things are going down there. Had a meeting with the administrator after that. And on the 25th, Prior Lake with the city administrator, the mayor, council members Zach Braid and myself, Dave Beer and Leslie Vermillion. Had a nice meeting that afternoon. After that, Revere in 21. We're going to be redoing that. There was an open house and it was sparsely attended. So, there's not a lot of residents there. There's the park on one side. There's you know, a couple of commercials, a few houses, but hopefully everything's good there. Then on the 26th, Prior Lake, Spring Lake, had a lunch meeting, gave out some awards, and I had to step up because I had a Vermilion Water meeting over in Farmington on the 31st, the board workshop, and then the ribbon cutting that was mentioned for the Center for Entrepreneurship on the 1st. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolf. For my report, at the 17th board meeting, we had a workshop. And I drove to Two Harbors, Minnesota to participate in the AMC Board Strategic Planning meeting. I'm, of course, the Tri-County delegate to the AMC Board of Directors. That was all day Wednesday and Thursday, and then home later Thursday night. On Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, back to Two Harbors for another meeting. Well, that's not county business, although we did do a chair vice chair meeting via Zoom on Tuesday morning. Back in town late Tuesday night. Wednesday, Metropolitan Mosquito Control District meeting. Lunch with a MnDOT employee to talk about how things are going over there. And later that afternoon, had coffee with some folks from Canterbury to talk about a major national event that may land in Shakopee in 2 years. That was kind of a fascinating discussion, and I'm impressed with the folks who are behind it. That will be significant in a good way for Scott County, Shakopee and Scott County. County Board workshop on the 31st. And then I attended the CAP Agency Finance Committee meeting that afternoon via Zoom. Let's see. On Wednesday the 1st, the open house ribbon cutting. I missed the ribbon cutting. We got there for treats and a tour of the fascinating deal that's going on out there at the old Open Systems building. You know, that's that building has been repurposed with new options going in there, and the intermediate school district, as we've sold or agreed to sell the workforce center to the city of Shakopee. By the way, tonight's agenda, I think they're advertising for bids to demolish that building already. Holy cow, they're moving right along. September 2nd, Thursday, Commissioner Roy and I had a virtual transportation committee meeting with staff discussing a lot of things that are going on. And then, of course, brings us to today. And that's my report. And once again, Commissioner Ulrich is ill and is not joining us today. We trust that he will recover quickly and that it's not the Wuhan flu, but allergies or something else like that. County Administrator update. Leslie, what do you have for us?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just had the one item. I was going to update you on the Workforce Development Center. We are moving ahead with the purchase agreement with the city. The removal of the building, they're looking at a contract for bids to come in sometime in October. So depending upon that final agreement, it looks like November 30th that the CAP agency can move the thrift store and that everybody would be able to meet that. So tentatively right now, we're looking at, closing sometime in that November time period. Moving that forward.
And just in regard to the CAP agency, thank you for reminding me. The programs and the staff and everything that works with early childhood and the food shelf are all going to be at the new facility on First Avenue in Shakopee, which should be ready for them to move by the time the city says you're out of here. Where they're choking on is the thrift store. Finding a decent retail location for the thrift store, which has a nice margin, which helps support the charity work we do. That's been a challenge. So if anybody knows any locations coming up.
I believe, Commissioner, they have located a
Oh, good.
place which is allowing us to move forward with that November
Great.
date that they have honed in on a location. I'm not exactly sure of that,
Okay.
but I believe in his last correspondence to Brad and the group that they feel they can meet that date because they found the location.
My last communication with Jeff was at the finance meeting last week. So that could be good news and good. Thank you, Leslie. Mr. Hosevar, we've heard from you today. What a treat that's been. Do we need to have a private meeting with you today, or how are we doing?
First off, Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out that the Choose Not to Use golf tournament is this coming Friday. As everyone here knows, that's my office's task force basically to educate our community, specifically children, to make good choices in life and keep stay off of drugs. So it's our primary and only fundraiser this Friday, so I look forward to that. And with having said that, we do not need to move private.
Okay. It's another good day and stuff. With that, members, we're going to adjourn in just a moment, but we're going to reconvene briefly for a workshop. I know the CIP is one budget we want to put off for a month, I think.
No, we're going to do the CIP,
Oh, we are gonna do it,
but
okay.
the budget discussion, we are
That's-
going to delay till all 5 of you are here and able to be online in person.
That's good. So with that, members, you'll be just declare us adjourned. You want to go through the roll call?
Not do a motion because you changed the agenda.
I did.
I motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk will take the roll.
Commissioner Wickman Brecky.
Aye.
Commissioner Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Beard.
Aye.
Commissioner Beers.
I